What is up, guys? It's time for the What is Hip Dota Daily number 2. I'm just gonna make a quick little adjustment to my webcam because somehow it's gotten brighter in here since I turned the webcam on. Man, light, how does it work? But today we're gonna be going over an introduction to Dota 2. It's gonna be the basics of laning. So if that is not clear enough, we're going to be talking about, the first 10 minutes or so of how a game's going to work. Last episode, we talked a lot about starting items, what heroes you want to play, how to look, basically, how not to look really dumb in the first 5 minutes, how to survive the first 5 minutes. Today, we're going to talk about, the actual, more of the playing part of the game. We're going to be looking at a couple different replays. Me and a couple of our supporting people here at DotA have scoured through a lot of public replays to try to figure out what kind of stuff we want to talk about. So we found 3 replays. We're going to look at about the first 10 minutes of all 3 of them, and we're going to talk about what we're looking at. We're going to be concentrating on one specific lane in each of the game, with maybe glancing over to another one, and we're going to talk about pretty much everything that goes into laning. And the other thing we're going to talk about very shortly is the different roles going on in one of these games of Dota. So, that being said, start up here in just a second. And another thing I wanted to say, just so you guys know, is the show is not going to stay at this very basic level for very long. But we do want to build a foundation for the next couple of weeks. Probably this entire week will be a lot of very basic stuff, which most people already know. But it's going to be a great guide and a great resource for people who are just starting to learn how to play Dota and want to know more. So, let's pop into our first game. I've fixed the overlay over here. Sorry about that for the last time. But basically, we're going to be concentrating on these guys right over here in this lane. This is going to be the top lane.
Prepare for battle.
Let's move it forward a little bit. And turn off this mode. So, we're going to be concentrating mostly on this top lane right here. This is the hard lane. We talked about this last time in the last episode, and it's the hard lane because the towers are much closer to the base. There's much less room for you to farm. See how this one goes out a lot further? That's the equivalent of this lane up here. And we will see. I just want to check the stream's okay. My XSplit just made some weird things. Great. So, this top lane right here is going to be Tiny and Leshrac once this game sort of settles. And we're really going to be concentrating on Leshrac and Tiny's play and how it interacts with the Sniper and the Sand King. So let's take a look at what they put in these lanes. Sniper is a very hard carry. That's one of those characters that's very good in the later parts of the game. In the beginning parts of the game, he's a lot weaker. He has a lot more trouble making an impact because his abilities aren't as good until later parts of the game, and he needs some items to be really good. Sand King is going to be played sort of as a support this game. This is it's not a very low level game, but a lower level game, so some of the stuff you're going to be seeing might look a little weird. For instance, he went bottle first in a side lane as a supporting Sand King. And we'll take a quick glance. This is the other lane we're going to be checking out a tiny bit. It's going to be this Anti-Mage over here. But let's hop back to the top lane. We've got Tiny here with Leshrac. And what these guys are going to be trying to do is shut down the farm of this Sniper. And something really good that this lane has is a double stun. So let's talk about a double stun for a second. Tiny's first ability is called Avalanche. Bombards an area with rocks, stunning and damaging enemy land units. So it throws out a stun right here, and then Leshrac has another stun, but it has a small delay. So if you get the tiny stun first, it makes it very easy for Leshrac to throw his other stun right on top of it. With this happening, obviously the person's going to be stuck in place for a lot longer. They're going to take a lot more damage and probably enable you to maybe turn a kill pretty early. So let's see what happens with this lane. And one other thing I'm going to do is change my camera so it's much easier, much less distracting. There we go. So, Sniper opted for a couple of these stat items we talked about. That's going to give him some a little bit stronger stats in the early parts of the game, but he only has one Tango. So if he takes a lot of damage, it's going to be hard. For this Tiny, we have one Tango as well as 3 Clarities. That's a lot of Clarities, but look at how much this ability costs. 120 mana, and there's that Avalanche right there. And now look how much mana he's gone. Almost half it's gone, but he has these Clarities, so he's going to be able to restore that. And Leshrac opted just for Tangos, as his mana pool is pretty good at the beginning. See how much higher it is than Tiny's? Notice how he didn't bring out a Clarity, because these guys are trying to balance out the deficits of their heroes in the early parts of the game. So let's see what we can get transpiring here. Speed it up a tiny bit, and maybe take another quick glance over to these other lanes. We have this Morph lane going up against this Shadow Fiend. These are 2 hard carries who don't have the best early killing power unless someone does something really dumb. Down here in this lane, we have Enchantress jungling, and it's also going to be Anti-Mage. He needs to farm as much as he possibly can. If he doesn't farm really hard in this lane, it's going to be hard for them in the later parts of the game, but it's hard because he's against 2 heroes. Alright, and we have 1 melee and 1 very short range going up against him. And they see that he's pulling, so they move him over. But now let's take a quick look back to our premier lane today. It's going to be our top lane. And we'll see what Tiny and Leshrac can get going. They've got level... This is weird right here. This is probably not an ideal build. Craggy exterior. It is going to stun someone. 6% chance of stun when they attack him. And now we see them moving onto the tower. Something that Leshrac really has going for him is high damage very early in the game. We've got Split Earth with 120, and then Edict as well has pulses, which get up to a lot of damage that gets split. He's going to throw a stun, and this is another thing, another pull that we've seen happen. We saw this in the bottom lane, and a pull is when you take this little creep camp right here, and you pull it straight up into this lane. Right here, and this pulls your lane back. Which brings me to something else we need to talk about before we head much further into this replay. It's something called creep equilibrium, okay? That sounds like a really complicated phrase, but I promise it's not. Creep equilibrium is basically how far your creeps are from your towers and from your heroes. So, and how close they are between this tower and this tower. So here we see the creep equilibrium is pretty far back. It's much further towards this tower, which is going to make Anti-Mage's life a little bit easier because it's a lot harder for someone to go around him because the tower's here. He has a place of safety in the early levels. He can fall back to this tower, and it's also providing a way for him. It's just more comfortable, basically. These guys can't get too close, and we also have this Enchantress who's putting a lot of pressure on them and giving space for the Anti-Mage to farm. This is called zoning. It's just like in a normal sport. You zone out some players, and this gives this player some room to fight and get his creep kills, and he only has 6. That's really not great for where we're at 3 minutes. You're aiming for around 50 creep kills in 10 minutes. So with these creeps here, it makes his life easier. So when you pull these creeps right here, when you pull them straight down into this lane, they attack them for a little bit, and then they'll follow them into the woods. That means they're not going to be fighting all of these creeps here, which means they can just walk much closer to the tower, and it pulls it back. One thing you do have to be careful of is if you just pull one creep camp that's not stacked. That means just one spawn. That's what this is. These 3 guys come once every minute, and if you stack it, that means if you take these creeps and you walk them all the way over here, so they're out of vision of here, right when that minute mark hits, it's going to respawn. So you have 2 creep camps. And ideally, you want to be able to pull that double stacked creep camp right down to here. That way, the lane completely dies, there's nothing left over, and that's keeping experience as well as gold away from your opponents as well as pulling the creeps back to this tower. So if you have a lane which is all the way up here, if your lane's pushed all the way up to here and you're an anti-mage and you have a support in your lane, you want your lane to be all the way back here because it makes your life way easier. You've got your jungle protecting you a little bit if there's someone in there. So you get your support player to double this camp and then pull it down, and then you have one lane which is going to be pulled back. It works the same way in this top lane. You can also pull this camp. It's a little bit harder, a little bit more complicated. And you can also pull this one as well as this one, but we won't get into that today. So again, they're pulling this camp back because they want it to get closer to the tower. This is not a great idea against all heroes. For instance, against Leshrac, it becomes a little bit risky just because of his abilities, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So let's get this replay going again. So Sniper is harassing this Tiny. That means he's using his right click to make him go back. He doesn't want him to be able to just sit right next to the creeps and right click them and get all of the experience and all of the gold that comes with having those creeps die around him as well as getting the last hits. So having that Sniper right click harass him is very good for pushing him back. It's pretty weak in the early game, but Tiny doesn't have too much health. I mean, he's got one of the highest starting healths of any hero, but it's not too much. And we see Leshrac tried to stun the Sniper right there, but he misses because there's a delay on that stun. You have to chain it with another one. That's pretty much the only way to guarantee it. So we'll see if Tiny's able to do something and maybe get a stun off here. So we see this Sand King. He's over on the side. He's in a little bit of a dicey position right here. Now see, look, both these heroes, he has to fall back, and there's the avalanche start. And Sand King's going to come back here. He didn't want the chain to go off, but Leshrac lands a really nice stun, and now he turns on that W, that Diabolic Edict, and that's going to be one kill for them. And now they're going to be able to pick up another one in Sniper. So what went wrong there for them? That was obviously really bad. Double kill, handing them both to the Leshrac, gives him a great start and a huge advantage in the lane. The Sand King was doing something very valiant here by Burrow striking up. Let's just back this up a tiny bit. So Tiny stuns Sniper, and Sand King sees this. He wants to protect Sniper, so he goes to stun Leshrac, but that puts him in a really compromising position, and we pretty much see what happens. But watch it one more time. There's the avalanche, and Leshrac was coming up for the stun, but now he throws that, and Leshrac lands a very nice split earth, and then turns on the edict, and they get the kill. There's the first blood, and now Sniper foolishly did not run away, although chances are he probably would have died anyway. But as soon as he saw that going on, he should have just backed way up back here by the forest, because there's nothing he can do. He's a carry. It's the beginning of the game. He's extremely weak. His options are limited. He should have just backed up, cut his losses. So now these guys are going to come back in the lane, and we'll see what's going on here. 11 last hits now for Anti-Mage. Still not very good. Enchantress, again, putting some pressure on these heroes, but now is going to be in a lot of trouble. He turns on the Nature's Attendants. Let's see if it's going to be enough to save him. Looks like it might be. Anti-Mage is coming back now and supporting him. And that's going to keep him alive. So these guys are having this back and forth. Their goal is basically to get Anti-Mage out of this lane. They have not been successful in it so far. Let's pop back up to our top lane. And we've got Nervous, who's got to be pretty careful here. And there's another avalanche. Now Leshrac's going to chain that stun again, and he gets it. And there's the throw. Nervous makes it out with a very nice burrow strike. But basically, the entire goal of this is they're waiting for their enemy to get out of position. They're not trying to force it, really. They wait for an enemy to get out of position. They chain their stuns. And then they try to get the kill. But you don't see them diving all the way past the tower quite yet, because they don't feel safe enough. Essentially, they don't want to die. They don't want to give up the lane advantage they already got. So now these guys are at very low health. Their farm is almost non-existent. They've got no regeneration. Tiny's going to throw another avalanche, and Sand King is very lucky to get out of that. And you'll notice that right there, he uses Burrow Strike to leave the lane. That's something that's completely okay to do. If you're in threat of dying, do whatever you have to make it out of that lane. Pop your magic stick. Use all of your abilities if you have to. But if it keeps you alive, it's going to be worth it. Unless you're using like an ultimate in your Tidehunter or something like that. But most of the time, if you can use an ability and get out of the lane, you're going to want to do it. Sand King now has Burrow Strike that twice. Now he's waiting for a pull. This is not stacked. And the reason you want to stack this is because the creep camp, your line of creeps will not completely die, and it will come out right about the time as when the next one comes. So then you have a mega wave, and it actually results in your lane getting pushed forward just a little bit. We see Leshrac coming over again. He wants to stop this pull. And again, nice Burrow Strike from Nervous is going to keep him in okay shape, but nice job turning on the Edict, splitting it. Tiny's coming around as well for support. And Nervous is going to go down. And both of these deaths right here are just a result of not careful enough play. So they already died once. They know they died once. They know they gave some gold and experience to this Leshrac, as well as the Tiny. And at that point, you can't do anything risky. They're a higher level than you, they have better items than you, and they can kill you very easily. If you see them coming up on the pole camp like that, you have to leave. You have to back up over here, you have to do something, but you can't stand there and let them turn on their abilities, which are way stronger than yours in the early game, just by the nature of their heroes. So how's it going down here in the bottom lane? Anti-Mage has no farm at all. He has nothing. This lane is going very badly for him. The reason I say that, look at his items and look at his last hits. He has 17 last hits at 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Something he could be doing to make this a little bit better is maybe having Enchantress in the lane a little bit more. But really, he's just in a hard scenario. And we see the Sand King now has rotated down to this bottom lane because this team wants to get a kill on this Anti-Mage, who still hasn't left the lane. So he's still getting a lot of experience. Look at his level versus the other guys. Let's bring that up over here. Level 7, he's the same as a mid-hero and Leshrac, who's gotten a couple kills. Anti-Mage is going to come over here, and this is, oh god. And he has the plank, so he's going to make it out of there, but that was not a good idea. So let's go back to our feature lane. And yes, I am going to be ignoring this kill right here. Really, we're concentrating on this lane. We just want to get you through the first 10 minutes of the game. So far, we've seen these guys do a good job zoning. They've kept people away from the lane. They've taken advantage of the fact that they're much stronger than their opponents at early levels. They're using their 2 stuns to catch someone who gets at all out of position. We've seen them do that twice, and these players are not playing careful enough, so it's resulted in a double kill. Leshrac has a great start. 3 kills. He's got his boots, and his farm is also not very good. And there's another avalanche. Look how much of Sniper's health that takes away. And now Leshrac's in the mid lane. So let's go back a little bit and check that out. So we see him journeying over here because this mid lane has also been pretty static. We haven't seen Morphling get a kill. We haven't seen Shadow Fiend get a kill. But both of those heroes are very strong in the late game, so you don't want them to get that running start. That's very easy for them to get. So now, Leshrac's going to come in, and he's going to just grab a kill on an irresponsible Shadow Fiend who didn't have any wards to protect him. There's no wards here. There's no wards here. He had no idea that was coming. And as a result, he dies. Sort of just an unfortunate happening. Not really his fault. And now we see the Sand King returning to lane with the sniper.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
But I think that's about it for this replay. We're only going to watch, like I said, the first 10 minutes or so of the game. Yep. So that's game number 1. We saw 2 very strong early heroes able to take advantage of the fact that Sniper moved out of position. And when that Sniper and Sand King, really, both of them made mistakes. And when that happened, they were able to chain their stuns and get a lane advantage. And at that point, this game results in the Radiant team winning. Their Leshrac gets really, really, really big. He ends up with like 15 kills or something. And a lot of the reason that this is happening is that he got fed those early 3 kills. That gives him that running start. It gives him the XP advantage. And then they didn't play careful enough to not have that hurt them. So we're going to move into the next game, which is going to be a little bit different. And I'm just going to look this up. Alright, so our next game is going to be looking at a very different lane. We're going to be talking about the mid lane. The mid lane is, you know, the middle, and it's traditionally 1v1. You have one hero going up against another one by themselves. In some competitive games, there might be two. But skipping through all the picks and stuff like that, it's going to be a Luna going up against a Pudge. Or I'm pretty sure. No, Morphling. Alright, so let's slow this down and take a quick look. And there is a pause in this one, which we just got to skip through here.
The battle begins.
But let's talk about the heroes we're going to be looking at. We've got Morphling. He's another one of those carries, and against him is going to be Luna. Luna is a late game carry who's also very strong in the early parts of the game because of a couple of her abilities. However, look at her health. Only 492. Extremely low health in the beginning game, so we see her get this item right here. It's called a Stout Shield. We haven't talked about this item yet, but it's extremely popular for carries who have lower health in early game, and you can see it blocks damage. It's a little weird on a ranged hero in the mid lane, but it blocks damage, so it makes it so the creeps don't hurt them as much, and a little bit of attack as well. But it's really just for creep damage mostly, and it allows you to stay in the lane a little bit easier, obviously because you're blocking a lot of damage. And I need to get the free camo. Here we go. So here's that pause I was talking about. We just gotta accelerate right through that. Man, I wish you could do that in programs. Alright. So now we're back in the game, and we're gonna have this Luna going up against Morphling. Morphling, let's talk about his build. He went boots first. That is the opposite of good. It just gives him movement speed. His stats are extremely low, and he opted for waveform first. I think this is an okay choice. It's gonna let him escape out of the lane extremely easily. Moves away. It's also a decent little damage dealer in the beginning parts of the game. But look at Luna's build. Much stronger. Has some attributes. Also has a salve. And when you have this waveform, the boots are really not even that helpful. Not a great choice. We're also going to be taking a couple glances at this bottom lane. But that's going to be Spirit Breaker and Pudge going up against a couple other heroes. We got to keep our eye here on the mid lane. Storm Spirit and Lina. So one thing we need to talk about really quick again while we're learning about Dota is a support hero. That's this guy. He makes your team better. And this is a ganker. Storm Spirit. A ganker is characterized by high mobility. It means they can move around the map extremely quickly, as well as some good damage and maybe a stun or something like that. Generally, they have high burst damages. That lets them kill someone extremely quickly if they get a little bit out of position, and Storm Spirit will journey over from another lane, get a kill, and then go back. And we're not even going to look at this top lane, really. It's sort of just a failure. Luna also opted to get Lunar Blessing first. This gives him a little bit of extra right-click damage, which is going to take advantage of the fact that Morphling doesn't have too much to do at early levels. And we see Luna diving pretty hard, and the Morphling is going to stop and has to be really careful. Look how low his health is. Luna's level 1 ability does, she's at level 2, 150 damage. And now Morphling's going to pop the salve, which is a good idea, but a bad idea is that he's sitting right next to Luna, rather. You can't sit right next to someone when you pop a salve. They'll do anything to stop it. They're wasting 100 of your gold and keeping you from getting 400 health. That would have healed Morphling completely, but instead, Luna pops the Lucent Beam, and now Morphling comes back. He wants to challenge Luna, which is not really a great idea, as we see. Down it goes. So, when you're playing a hero like Morphling, a hero like Drow, a hero like, I don't know, anyone that's a really hard carry. So, if you're playing one of those heroes, essentially, you need to make sure you don't do anything stupid until you have some of your items. What Morphling did right there was extremely stupid. There's no reason for him to challenge Luna after losing his salve. It already is putting him at a little bit of a disadvantage. His health was extremely low. Luna's really wasn't that low. there wasn't really a reason for him to do that. Morphling should be content to sit in this lane and just farm up. Farming, again, means getting those last hits, getting that experience, and eventually getting enough money to buy some bigger items so you become more effective. But instead, he does a really weird challenge on a very strong early hero who has an 150 damage nuke that also has a little mini stun. Luna's made for this early game right now. So let's take a look at this bottom lane as Morphling moves back to the mid lane. We have Pudge and Spirit Breaker going up against Storm Spirit and Lina. So what's something that really sucks about this lane? Pudge and Spirit Breaker are both melee heroes, meaning that they don't have a ranged attack. That sucks really hard for them, because both of these guys are ranged. Storm Spirit, granted, is very short range, and Lina also ranged, so they're going to be able to keep them back. Look how far back they are. They're afraid to move up here and get creep kills. And now we see this Tidehunter waiting very patiently for Morphling to come back because they want to win this lane back, and this is a very smart move. Tidehunter comes over from a side lane, which is not something you're traditionally see in a pub, to help get a kill on this Luna. They grab the kill, and now this is going to give Morphling that room again to get this lane back. It's going to let him farm, and Tidehunter as well is going to be happy for that kill experience. I heard a hook. It's going to be a fail hook down here in the bottom lane, and we see Storm Spirit with 8 last hits, Spirit Breaker with 2, Pudge with 2. You can see who's getting the better of this lane. 5 last hits again for Lina. And with these guys, with this range advantage, it's going to make their life really hard. So what we're going to see is Pudge trying to be a little bit more aggressive with these hooks and grab one of them, which is going to give them an opportunity. See, here he's moving around the side, and we'll see if he can grab a hook. Uh-oh. Mid lane's fighting again, though. Okay, alright, okay. So another thing we're going to talk about here with this build is, we didn't see this, but at level 2, Morphling took Adaptive Strike. Now, if you don't see why this is a bad idea, you might not know the other ability of Morphling right here, which is Morph. And essentially, that lets him move his attribute points from Strength to Agility. Now, in Episode 1, we talked about how Strength, 1 point of Strength, gives you 19 health points. So if he moves 33 of these points, all of them into Strength, he's going to get over, you know, almost 500 health more. So it gives him a ton of health. That combined with Waveform gives him the ability to back out of a lane when he's getting pressured and maybe survive a gank he wouldn't otherwise do. Wouldn't otherwise make it through. Also gives him a bit of bonus stats, and it costs a little bit of mana, 20 per second. So it drains it, so you gotta be careful. But if he had grabbed that earlier, it's possible we would have seen him get out of this lane. And now we're seeing Luna and Morphling again facing off against each other, and Morphling again has nothing, no items, only boots, and he's so weak. He's got no extra stats, and he again is moving to be aggressive on this Luna, which is a huge mistake. Him standing right here is just a terrible choice. Luna probably could have gotten a kill right there if he tried. Look. 225 damage nuke, he's going to get another kill right now. There's no way. Yes, he got the stun, and now he's morphing Strength. And you can see his health increasing extremely slowly. And at that point, Luna doesn't even care. She's committed past the tower. She still has a salve. And this is another really good example of when someone does something and then doesn't realize the consequence of his actions. So you would have figured when he died the first time, he probably wouldn't have tried to be aggressive on Luna again. But again, we see him standing right next to Luna, who has a really strong nuke, is still very fragile. So I know what he's thinking. He's thinking, if I can get a perfect engagement, I can get a kill. But Luna has a mini stun. You're not going to get that perfect engagement. And now Luna has her ultimate. That's like a big version of Lucent Beam. It brings down several beams, 4 of them, and they still do damage, but there's no stun. But man, it's like, man, if you're losing a lane, don't try to kill the person, because they'll just kill you again, and then they'll kill you again, and then they'll kill you again, and then they'll be so fed, and you'll be in the late parts of the game, and someone will be like, "Oh my God, how is this Luna so big?" And you'll be like, "Well, I accidentally died 4 times to her in the mid lane." So something that we haven't really seen in this mid lane is anyone using a bottle. A bottle gives you a lot of regen, 3 charges, and let's just take a look at bottle really quick. I can't look at shop. Shop. Oh, there's bottle. So it gives you 135 mana and 135 health, excuse me, and 70 mana per charge. So it comes with 3 charges. It can be refilled at the fountain. That means when you come back here, that bottle will get refilled. You can use the courier to fly it out, or fly it back to the fountain, fill it up, and do that. But another way you can do it is by grabbing a rune. We talked about runes a teeny bit in the last episode. This is a haste rune. It increases your movement speed to max move speed when you use it. Normally, if you were just to run up, say Luna ran over here and grabbed this haste rune, it would just give her that haste movement speed, full movement speed, and she'd be able to run around. But if she had a bottle, she could bottle that, meaning she could activate it whenever she wants within 2 minutes. Then it just turns on, and then it gives her that haste rune and refills the bottle back to 3 charges. Something that you would want to know about in the mid lane, because if you can get good rune control, it gives you a lot more staying power in the lane. And then if you catch a good rune, oh, we didn't even go over time to runes there are. There's a couple different kinds of runes. There's the invisibility rune, which gives you invis, obviously, no one can see you. Haste rune, which gives you very high movement speed. Illusion rune, which makes 2 more of you. Pretty much the most useless laning one, I believe. And then double damage, which doubles your damage. If you couldn't figure that out. All of those last for 45 seconds. So we're back to this mid lane where this Morphling, again, still has not bought anything. And Luna also is being pretty irresponsible with her spending. She has 930 gold. Normally, you want to spend this gold pretty early because it's untapped gold. There's going to be a kill down here. And you can see, sometimes making a challenge on a lane you have a disadvantage on is a bad choice.
It's the humiliation.
Uh-oh, we missed a very exciting part where Morphling probably did something a little risky. So let's back up a little bit.
Radiant's middle tower.
So we talked about Luna's ultimate, which is this extremely strong AoE beam ability which concentrates down enemies extremely quickly. If Luna catches you out with this, you are pretty much dead. And we'll see the result for this in a second. So with that, she has the ability to do, let's see, something I didn't know, it does the level of Lucent Beam. So this is max level, 300 damage, and it can hit someone 4 times. That's 1,200 damage. There's the adaptive strike. And he's trying to push this back, but now this Luna comes in and waveforms away from the creeps. And look at all that damage. By waveforming over here, away from the creeps and toward Luna, he opens himself up to just taking that ult right in the face. And again, this lane is at a pretty huge disadvantage, and Luna's just going to take this advantage all the way down to the bank.
Bottom tower is
So let's fast forward for a little bit here.
Radiant's middle tower is under
And now we see the Morphling coming back. And what can Morphling do in this situation? Well, the biggest thing that he needs to do is get help from another lane. When we saw that first kill happen on him, we saw the Tidehunter come over and immediately get a kill on Luna. If that had happened again, perhaps he wouldn't have been in the worst shape which he is in now. He is in terrible shape. He only has 4 last hits. He's getting absolutely destroyed in this lane. And how is Luna accomplishing this? Well, we saw her disable his only regen back when he used that salve and was able to turn that into first blood. That gives her a nice little level advantage, and she's much stronger than this guy in the early phases, especially with 26 bonus damage as well as this stun and nuke. So Morphling should have gotten some help, and maybe something which would have made a little bit more sense is a different lane format. This lane up here doesn't really make sense. So a way they might have been able to fix this is perhaps they put Tidehunter and Morphling down in this lane, Pudge in the middle lane, and Pugna as well as Spirit Breaker in the top lane. This would have given them much stronger lanes. So, I mean, I don't want to say Morphling was losing this lane from the beginning up against this, but kind of was losing this from the beginning, and then he made it even worse. I mean, this is doable. There are people who put Morphling in the mid lane. If you get Morph first and you give yourself some extra agility, it makes your attack points higher, because remember, your primary attribute for every point of that, you have +1 damage. So if he had Morph 10 points into agility. He would have had much lower health, but he would have been able to last hit a little bit better. Maybe he would have more than 4. He also got this point in Adaptive Strike, which is just useless at the early levels. There's nothing that Luna has, which is a channel that he needs to stop or anything like that. And he's using Waveform to get himself in really precarious positions. Early, using a Waveform forward is not great. You usually want to use it as an escape unless you have another support with you.
Radiant's bottom tower.
So now this Luna has a huge advantage, 3 kills. This Morphling has 3 deaths. In this lane, it's pretty much over. Like, Morphling isn't really going to be able to do anything to make it back. And he gets a band of Elven Skin. So he wants Shreds eventually. So Luna grabs that Haste Rune. Moves back around here. Makes a quick stop at the secret shop. And picks up a Ring of Health. This is going to give her some staying power in the lane. It increases your HP regen by 5, which means you gain 5 more a second. You can see her health healing up right here. And we saw this Morphling move to another lane, and this is a pretty good idea. This lane, there's 2 dual lanes, so they're at a much, well, Huskar's not, but they should be at a lower level than him if he hadn't died that many times. And maybe this is going to let him get a little bit of an XP boost. But Luna sees this is going to happen, comes over as well. Ultimate's not off cooldown, but that's okay. She's still really strong. And now this Morphling again, putting himself in no man's land. Look, no, look at this. Look at where he is. Oh my god. Pugna and Tidehunter are all the way over here, and he moves over here. So when you're playing and you're a carry and you're new, stay near your support players. This guy just journeys into the woods and now is going to die. Look at this. He's not going to live through this. Now he wave storms back straight next to another hero. Huskar jumps on him. Gets the kill easily. Huskar is going to go down here. Luna gets another kill. 5 kills. And now is going to die. Most likely.
Radiant's bottom tower
Maybe not. Actually, he's going to make it out. Pugna got a little bit unlucky. Probably could have secured that kill somehow. But now this freaking Luna has 5 kills. So this game is pretty much over. There's a huge advantage. Let's see. I don't think Luna even really returns to lane. Yeah, Luna actually comes all the way back up to this lane. So let's move on to our last replay of the day. And our last replay, don't remember actually that much. So let's see what we can find. Something I do want to say is if you guys want to see your replays during this week, talking about very new play, please shoot me a message on Twitch with your match ID and a brief description of why I should show it. And if it's good, I will definitely feature it on here, and we can go over how to get better at Dota at the very, very basic level. So bringing up last replay. Okay, that's just gotta load really quick. I'll speed through this, get this game rolling. And so far we've looked at a dual lane with 2 strong laners. We've checked out solo mid, and we've also taken a look. Now we're going to take a look at a lane with a hard carry as well as a support.
Prepare for battle.
So the lane we're going to be concentrating on is going to be this bottom lane. It's going to have this Earthshaker, this Chen, and eventually Phantom Assassin's going to make his way over here. Here he is, the main antagonist. The star of today's replay number 3 for the Dota Daily. It's going to be this Phantom Assassin. So, we're going to have this Chen lurking around in the jungle. And then we're going to have Phantom Assassin with Earthshaker supporting him. Earthshaker is another one of these really strong supports. And let's move forward. Thank you, Chastiser. That's the point. I hope this is helpful.
The battle begins.
So, we're seeing them move into lane, and something they're doing right here is blocking this lane. That's, again, just to pull those creeps back like we talked about before. And we see Earthshaker start with a questionable item build. And it looks okay. This looks a lot like the item builds we always talk about. He's got some stats, he's got some regen. What could go wrong? But look at his total mana pool. 234. Look at this ability, Fisher. 125 at level 1. At level 1. Further levels costs all the way up to 170. So when he uses this, he's almost going to have to pop a Clarity immediately to be able to use it again. So it's pretty common for Earthshaker to grab a couple more Clarity potions at the beginning of the game. Maybe even as many as 4. 4 is a lot, but it happens. 4 or 5 even, if you're really going to be using that a lot. Phantom Assassin, let's talk about her really quick. Stifling Dagger deals minor pure damage to heroes, half damage, deals pure damage to creeps and half damage, half that pure damage to heroes, and it's mostly used to last hit from a distance. Denied. Boom, except that one got denied, but that's what it's gonna do. She wants to be able to grab last hits with that. And Pudge gets first blood on Kunkka, but we're not even paying attention to that lane. Don't even care. So now we see them already being very aggressive on the sniper. And, oh no. No. And you see, there's a couple things I want to talk about which are very important there. First, they saw a hero who was extremely pushed forward. Usually when you're playing in this lane, this is the dire hard lane, you don't want to move much past here because it opens you up to a world of pain. Right here, they can walk up. They can walk up through the river. There's a lot of reasons you don't really want to go past right here. He was all the way down here. Let's back this up a tiny bit. Look at how far up he is. And now this Chen is thinking, oh my god, look how far up that guy is. And then he finds a centaur creep. Let's talk about Chen really quick. Chen has 3 abilities which are really important. This one is basically just a slow and takes a little bit more bonus damage. It's pretty uncommon for now. Now we have Test of Faith. This is a variable damage ability which does pure damage anywhere between what you see on the screen depending on the level. And then this is Chen's most important ability in the early part of the game. It's called Holy Persuasion. It lets him take control of a creep and gives them a minor HP buff. It also will TP a hero back to the fountain if you use it on a hero, a friendly hero, not an enemy hero. So now this Chen sees what's up. He's like, wow, this sniper is really dumb. Sniper has no escape mechanism. He's extremely slow. He has no stun. He has nothing. If they move on him, he is unbelievably screwed. So we see Chen come in, and he's like, oh my god, this guy's screwed. And then we see a sick Fisher block right here. And a Fisher block means this right here, this is his Q that we talked about before. This turns this into impassable terrain. It makes a wall. And now he has to walk all the way around here to try to get out. And we know what's going to happen. And the other thing which is really important is all of them wait, and they give Phantom Assassin the last hit. As a carry, you really, really want to have that. You want to get your carry as much farm as possible in the early levels. That little first blood is going to give him a nice boost, and now he's going to have a little bit more room. And we've seen Dazzle meet up with the sniper, who before was putting down a ward, and as a result let his landing partner die. But Dazzle's another hard support, and he's got a couple really cool abilities. This is Shallow Grave. Makes it so no matter what, you can't die through Shallow Grave. If there's like one ability which you can. Calling Blade goes through it, but not that important. And it's a 5-second duration of you not being able to die to physical damage, to damage over time, to magic damage, to any damage. And then he's got Shadow Wave, which is a damage slash heal, heals your allies and damages your opponents, and it can do 3 targets, 80 damage. You can read that right there, but we'll see him use that a lot in lane. He's also got Poison Touch, which is a slow, And once it gets to level 3, you get a stun as well. And then this is Weave. It's just a plus damage for your allies, minus damage just for your enemies. You can see how he's a support. So we saw Sniper go down early. But now, since this Earthshaker only brought 2 Clarities in the lane, he already had to use one of them. He's got Fisher back up now. So hopefully he'll be able to make something else happen. But if he puts another level on Fisher, it's going to be really annoying.
Double damage.
Mid lane again. Stuff's happening. We don't really care. To get good at Dota, you really need to compartmentalize. Like, figure out things you want to get good at. Let's move forward a little bit here. Alright. So now we see Chen coming back again. And he's got ability. This guy has an ensnare, which is a net. And now we see another extremely good Fisher block. See, look. Now he can't move up again. This Earthshaker is actually playing extremely well, despite his insistence to only grab 1 Clarity. This makes it so this Dazzle has to turn around, and now is probably going to die. And there's Shallow Grave. That's going to keep him alive for 5 more seconds. Is it going to be enough? No, it's not. Chen gets the last hit. Now this Sniper is also going to have to fall back. Fisher is about to be off cooldown. Can they line something up? He doesn't get a block or anything. And now there's another net. Sniper is going away. He might live. He might live. And he's a lucky bastard. He lives. But you can already see the lane advantage that's developing for these guys right here. They wait until someone gets out of position. You take advantage of the fact that they're out of position. And then you use that to propel yourself into the mid game and hopefully snowball into the late game. Dota, the smallest mistakes in the early game can really kill you in Dota. It's the most important part of the game, and a little mistake can really screw your entire team over if it's to the wrong person. Phantom Assassin is one of those characters who you do not want to get a big running start, as he becomes super effective in the late parts of the game, gets huge critical hits, and can kill your whole team all at once. He already has a Ring of Health. That gives him that staying power in the lane. It's also going to build into a Battle Fury. Let's talk about Battle Fury for a quick second. Battle Fury is an item, which I don't know if we're going to be able to bring up because of this freaking shop. Is it on this page? There it is, Battle Fury. It has a passive, which is a cleave. That means it deals a % of your damage in an area right around you. Okay? So, the cleave damage is 35%. That means it does, you know, not your full attack damage, but part of it. So if you get some big damage items, it's extremely helpful. And if you're this character, Phantom Assassin, it will magnify your crits as well. That makes them extremely strong. Also gives you damage and regeneration, because it's made out of a Ring of Health, a Ring of Mana, which is called a Void Stone, not a Ring of Mana, and then some damage items. And now we see Earthshaker being very patient. He's waiting for someone to get out of position, but notice how he hasn't used his health consumables. These should have been mana consumables. Now Earthshaker is sort of waiting for Chen to come over here. Him and Phantom Assassin by themselves don't have the best killing power. And if you get over here with the Chen, you have a lot more ability. A lot more ability to do damage. Should finish my thoughts. And let's move forward a bit here. There's a little bit of a lull here in this laning phase. But on the one hand, what these guys is doing is what they're doing is smart. They don't want to magnify that death which they already received in the beginning part of the game. Both of them died. That gives a big XP advantage to this lane. But what should be happening, this Kunkka should be leaving his lane and assisting. If he can come over here and even help them get 1 kill against these guys, it's going to even it up a lot and give them a pretty decent, not advantage, but it's going to get them back into the game, which is really what they're looking for. We'll move forward a little bit. We see him using Dagger for last hit. Let's check out the other lanes really quick and see what's going on. This Kunkka and this Pudge have traded kills, so they're pretty even. But now, again, we see the Sniper moving over. And now he's out of position again. He's going to take a lot of damage. There's the clap from the Shallow Grave. Is he going to make it out? Is he going to make it out? A little bit early on that Dagger. But, nope, Chen's going to come down and get the last hit. So let's back up and see how that transpired. What you'll notice so far, since we're looking at pretty low-level games, anytime someone dies in the early game, it's almost always, not 100%, but almost always a direct result of someone else making a mistake or doing something stupid. Getting out of position, moving way forward into the jungle when you have a weak level 1 hero, or a weak early game hero. So here's Sniper moving over. And he's like, oh my god, there's an Earthshaker there. And then we know what happens. He dies. Move forward again, and then watch him die one more time. They do everything they can to keep him alive. Even slows the creep. But he goes down now. And this Pudge is now getting a pretty good handle going with this Kunkka. But again, we see a mistake getting turned into a pretty big disadvantage. Now, Chen is getting some good farm. Earthshaker even has some stuff. Phantom Assassin's doing okay. Only 20 last hits. Not in a great place as far as those go. But they have a nice lane advantage. That means hopefully they'll be able to turn this into a couple kills. And now, finally, sorry, when I sent Kunkka before, I meant Pudge should be coming over, not Kunkka. Wrong team. But Pudge now is coming over, and he's hunting for someone to help get this lane back to balance. And he gets a pretty nice ultimate, but Earthshaker stops him, and he's not getting any support from his teammates, who are all the way over here. They're coming up finally now, but it's a little late, and he might just die because of this. He turns a kill right before he dies. But still, a pretty big failed gank. Going to keep this lane pretty much in the same position. Phantom Assassin going to take a slight XP hit because it's going to be out of the lane for a bit. Chen has to pop his ult here to not die. Now, can Earthshaker come over here and do some sick man mode? No, he's just going to stun and then back up. This is a smart choice. Sniper now is starting to actually right-click for some decent damage. So that was a good attempt at help, but what should have happened, instead of these guys meandering over here... Now, this was probably because of communication. Let's just back this up a teeny bit. This is probably because of a huge lack of communication. But we see Pudge all the way over here. He's looking for a kill. He wants to get this lane back to, back to his team side, as well as get himself some Goldie's experience. And we see this Dazzle. I don't think this haste rune is true. Oh no, it is true. So this Dazzle has a haste rune. Sniper's coming up as well. So they should be beelining over here to help this Pudge. Oh no, he doesn't actually have a haste rune, it's just a bug. But instead, they're meandering around, they're trying to decide if they're going to go. Now they get moving. And now the Pudge is going to go down, but it's too little too late. Pudge is able to turn a kill by himself, but these guys don't do anything. They don't even get the experience. And we know they don't get this kill.
Hand of God.
So blah, 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 blah. I'm going to move forward a little bit, and we're almost done with this replay.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
And this replay was a much better example of how really not to screw up your lane really bad, because we saw the other guys not continually dying like that Morphling did, but still making some questionable decisions while trying to get this lane back in order. Really, when you lose the lane like that, you need help from one of your allies to come over and try to win the lane back. But winning it by yourself is almost never going to happen. Unless you, if you're much better than the opponents you're playing, it's possible. But if you're on an equal playing field, which hopefully you will be, because of matchmaking, it won't be a problem. Phantom Assassin now is going to take some decent pressure, and he's actually in a position where he might die. Now this is quite the opposite. He was really far forward, and they probably could have pursued that a little bit, but you could tell they were scared that this Earthshaker was still around here. So that's all we're going to watch for this replay, I think. But one thing I do want to mention again, which we haven't talked about too much, is something about a little bit more complicated in the laning phase. But let's say you're the Sniper right here, and you start right-click. Oh, I forgot this is when he dies. We need to back up a little further than this. You're this Sniper right here, and you are harassing this Phantom Assassin with right-click. When you right-click on this Phantom Assassin right here, right-click to attack, you're going to take aggro. Aggro means like the target of attack, the person that's going to get the attacks on them, whether that would be tower aggro or creep aggro. When you right click this hero, that puts you at the top of the priority to get tower aggro as well as creep aggro. So if you're on, this is just something to keep in mind. This is kind of complicated, but you'll be able to see it pretty easily if you go into one of your own games. If you right click this hero, these creeps will start attacking you, the tower will start attacking you, and you have to be very careful with that. But that being said, if you're a ranged hero, it's one of the best ways to deal with a really strong melee laner. Just keep attacking them, keep attacking them, keep attacking them until they have lower health, and maybe you can string a couple abilities together and get a kill. And I will tell you, at the end of this game, this Phantom Assassin and company do win. A lot of it is actually because I'm pretty sure this Pudge ends up getting, or not the Pudge. I don't remember who actually wins this. Let's just look. We can look really. I'll tell you. We'll see who won. The Radiant won. So that's what I thought. They did win. Pretty short game. But that's the basics of Dota Daily for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I am going to be bringing you more videos. So again, if you guys have a replay that you want me to analyze or you want to go over or anything like that, or maybe you don't know why you lost, or you're not sure how you could get better and you're a pretty low level player, send it over my way. You can use Twitch, or also check out whatiship.tv. That's my website. And my email and contact information is all up on there. You can also find me at all of these social media places. And like I said, this week is going to be some more basic stuff, but soon this series is going to head into much higher level play. We're going to start analyzing tournament games. We're going to be looking at almost exclusively replays. This series is not really going to have too much first-person playing from me. We will be looking at first-person playing from pro players and tournaments like that, but this is going to be dedicated to you getting better. Alright? So, if you enjoyed, let me know. If there's anything that you'd rather that I do instead or do something better, please let me know. But this is daily number 2, closing out on What is Hip, and I hope you guys enjoyed the basics of laning, and have a great day. Peace. See you later.
Going about my ways happily, living luckily, growing naturally, speaking softly, dreaming oddly, speaking honestly. Embody all ways of life energy. Everything is perfect actually. I know love will come eventually. Amazing obviously. Going about my ways happily, living luckily, growing naturally, speaking softly, dreaming oddly, speaking honestly. Embody all ways of life energy. Everything is perfect actually. I know love will come eventually. Amazing obviously. Going about my ways happily, living luckily, growing naturally, speaking softly, dreaming oddly, speaking honestly. Embody all ways of life energy. Everything is perfect actually. I know love will come eventually. Amazing obviously. 'Cause baby, I was swimming between islands, small silence in the depths of the oceans, when the universe opened, open to a diamond, diamond to the chosen, chosen to enlighten. Life on the island, silent in the island, rising like a mountain from the darkest of oceans. So the universe opened, open to the diamond, diamond to the chosen, born into the ocean. 'Cause the universe opened. Going about my ways happily, living luckily, growing naturally, speaking softly, dreaming oddly, speaking honestly.
Bye. Thanks for watching.